Hi, I'm Dan Winter, and I'm with the Heart Coherence team, and we're here to do a demonstration instruction in the use of the Heart Tuner Bliss Tuner. It's 2007. We have lots of new features to show you. We have the heart rate variability. We have lots of new features in the Bliss Tuner. So this is an updated instructional video, 07, on Heart Tuner Bliss Tuner. The main information sites for this are goldenmean.info and heartcoherence.com. We're here today to show you the practical aspects of the setup and getting started, as well as the new screen functions and some things about the interpretation and data recording. So we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm here today with Laurent, who's behind the camera, and Katerina over here, who's hopefully smiling. Is she there? Let's see. Oh, yes, there she is. Yes. She's going to learn how to smile in French today, which is fun. Here we go. Okay. So, first we're going to talk about the basics. Supposing you just got your Heart Tuner hardware. Here it is. This is what it looks like. Little preamplifier. It's opto-isolated, battery powered. There's 4 AA batteries under this little slider in the back. You need to be sure your batteries are updated. So you have your preamplifier and you're ready to get started. You download the software. It's nice to do the download. You can use the discs we ship, but the download gets you the latest version, heartcoherence.com/download. And you do a simple install. And then the software will be found here, if you want to zoom in right on the screen here now. It'll be found, zoom in really close now, really close. It'll be found in, it default installs to your C drive, program files, Heart Coherence team, okay? And inside there's a folder, which Heart Coherence team, and here you'll find your Heart Tuner Pro 04. And it's good to make a shortcut for your desktop. Good. So for now, I'm just going to launch the software from here, assuming you just did your install. I double click on it, it launches. Now, when you're first setting up your software, if you're going to do a demo, that is, you haven't bought the hardware, and you just want to open and play existing data, you could go right in here on the main control panel. See this main control panel right there, that one. Good, excellent, good camera work, sir, thank you. So if you were just doing a demonstration to learn how to use this for yourself, you could go into here, and under File right here, hit Open Recording. Right there, Open Recording. And you could open an existing data set and play data that you find on the internet. For example, goldenmean.info/perception has a data set that you can use to open and play data and learn how to use it even without buying the hardware, so you can learn about the system. But supposing you did just purchase your hardware and you're ready to go, then you would click over here. The first window you really need to learn how to use is right. Good. Yes, it's called Channel Input. In the Channel Input window, you would click here and you'd click Select on 1 heart or 2 hearts. Today we're going to do 1 heart. And if you click Selected there, and this is the first time you use your system, the system would open, and when you try to take data, and it would say, here is your serial number, and request an activation key. So if you're a new user, you just send that serial number to frank@heartcoherence.com, and he would respond quickly with your activation key. But you only have to do that once, and we've already done that here. So now we're ready to go. So we're going to click Take Data, and we're going to show you the basics. First of all, before we do that though, we forgot one thing, didn't we? We forgot to show how the electrodes are placed, yes? So, remember, EKG is the easiest. The electrocardiogram work is very simple. The electrodes are these 2 little silver-coated snap-ins, and these snap in and out, but they last a long time. But you snap them into here if you ever want to replace them, but they last for years. And for heart work, EKG, you do not need any electrode gel on here. The only thing you want to be sure is that the wrists are clean, and that if the wrists are too dry, you can use a little alcohol, but that's usually not necessary. Okay, so we just put these 2 little wrist straps here on Katerina, and we want to be sure they're snug enough so you get a good fit. If they're really loose, you just fold them over to double them up. Yep, good. So for now, we're going to start with just 1 channel. Katerina here has her little wrist straps on. That's good, yes? And once you start, it's important to ask your subject not to move their wrists very much, because if you move your wrists, you get a couple seconds of noise. Okay, so we're ready to click input data now. Here we go. We're on the screen. We click select, and we're selecting one channel EKG here. Yes? Now, first thing we notice is that this green light, just come over and show them the green light so they see this. You see that green light just came on. So you know your heart tuner is working if the green light comes on. If the green light doesn't come on, check your batteries or plug and unplug it. Also, if you ever get a disorderly exit, you can just plug and unplug the USB cable to reset the device. But we don't need to do that. We've got beautiful data cooking here. Let's zoom in on this screen right here. So we're starting with one channel to make this very simple, to give you a little simple instructional video. So here, I'm just blowing up the input data channel a little bit. Notice we have a beautiful clean EKG. This is called the QRS&T wave, and if there's lots of squiggles here where the line gets very thick with lots of noise, then you should play with making sure the wrist straps are tight or use a little bit of rubbing alcohol to get better contact on the skin. But for here, we've got beautiful EKG signal, so we move on to screen number 2. Remember, normally you'd be doing this with 2 people, but we're doing with just 1 person for starters here, just to get a little experience in using the device, yeah? So now I'm going to play with this other screen here, which is the spectrum analysis screen here. I'm just opening this up a little bit. So this is the spectrum analysis screen here we're playing with. This is labeled Heart Tuner Pro Spectrum. Yeah, see the top here. See the top of that. See the word spectrum is right here. Yeah? That's good. Very good. Good camera work there, sir. Thank you. So we were looking at that window, and the spectrum means it's the harmonics contained in the heart. Now notice what I can do here on the bottom right. I got 4 little slider controls. These 4 little slider controls, 2 are vertical, 2 are horizontal. And there'd be 2 sets of these if I was doing 2 channel. Let's start with the horizontal ones first. The bottom one here controls how many frequencies I'm displaying. That's it. So normally for brainwave and heart work, most of the interesting stuff is about 0 to 20 or 24 cycles per second. So right here on the bottom, you see this? I have 24 cycles per second here. 0 to 24. So these are the frequencies contained in the heart. The newest frequency always on the bottom, and the waterfall landscape plot scrolls upward. But I can zoom way over and include up to 60 cycles per second, and that's a way to find out if I have noise on the screen, which I don't. It's a beautiful looking screen of data. There's an automatic 50 or 60 cycle filter, which is switchable and normally set on in your heart tuner. Okay? So I'm going to scroll this back now and just display the normal 0 to 25 hertz of frequencies in the heart. This second slider bar here just determines whether the frequencies are displayed in a vertical waterfall or a slight staggered or waterfall plot like that. Yes? I'm going to leave it about halfway in between just for fun. But the main controls here you want to use here is these 2 controls on the vertical. This one controls how many different frequencies, how far apart the different plots are, and this one controls the amplitude. You see the gain control? So I could crank up the gain. Now, the other thing I can control here, let me just show you. If I went into the advanced settings panel over here, now this is advanced settings, I could display more harmonics in the waterfall. See where it says in the spectrum settings here, the spectrum settings, I could put more frequencies in the waterfall plot. 6, 7, 8, there we go. There they are. They're showing up too. It's cool. So I'm going to just show you how I'm going to put 10 in there just so you see a lot of them. So you see 11, 12. There's 12. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. So now I'm going to put these display plots closer together. And notice how that looks more like a waterfall now. It's almost like a tapestry. Yeah? And I'm going to make it more vertical here to see. So there's lots of things you can do. Now, the main thing I want to do here is, when I look at the harmonics in the heartbeat, remember the newest one is always on the bottom. Notice that the frequency here at around 5 hertz is a little low. Although her heart is very healthy because the harmonic inclusiveness here is very good. That means all the harmonics are present. And we can see that over here in the sepstrum. So let's look at the sepstrum now. The sepstrum is where we measure the internal coherence, and that's right here. Okay, in the sepstrum display, the amplitude of this peak here is the amount of internal coherence. So when she smiles, if she likes my jokes, that goes up, yeah. Okay. And if she doesn't like my jokes, that goes down, right? There, that went down, yep, sure enough. Okay, so when she relaxes and gets happy, now let's just see if she relaxes. Now, a little bit of stress, she's worried. So when that peak goes up, that means her heart is more coherent. We're using the sepstrum, the second order power spectrum called the sepstrum, to measure internal phase coherence. So we're measuring heart coherence. We're also going to use that to measure brain coherence. So the first step is to learn to raise that peak. Second step is to learn to move that peak left-right, which is linked to heart rate and emotional flexibility. The third step is to learn to link with another person when two hearts link up. I'll just show you the controls here are very similar. I have an amplitude control, I have the spacing control, and also I can have more harmonics in the plot, and also I can have vertical versus horizontal sweep here. Yeah? But the fun part here, now I'm going to make this harmonic screen smaller, is to look at the history of coherence. So this is the coherence history. I'm going to move this window over here. We want to look at this window right here now. Okay. So what we're doing here, let's just move over so you can see this window too at the same time. Good, good. Okay. Oh, not quite so much. Oh. Okay. Yeah, perfect, perfect. So this peak here is showing me the history of the amount of coherence here. So this is when she liked my joke, and this is when she was not quite so sure she liked my jokes, see? Or if she says, I love you and I want to marry you, and her peak is up here, then you say yes, because she's telling the truth. But if she says, I love you and I want to, or he says, I love you and I want to marry her, and the peak is down here, then you say, ooh, wait a minute, there was not some coherence in your heart at that moment. Maybe you were worried about something, yes? So it's called a lie detector or a kinesiology measure. So this is the history of coherence, and the therapist uses this to find out when the patient was had their buttons pushed, was very excited or very happy. Okay? So that's the coherence history, and notice the controls I have for that plot. I can control the amount of time displayed in the coherence history, and also I can control the smoothing feature, which is the average. See how that smooths the wave? It's called the averaging. Also I have a gain control here. This controls the height of that peak, yeah? So that's the coherence history. Now down here, we have the new feature that's not in the other video, and this is the heart rate variability. Let's explain what that is a little bit here. So the heart rate variability here, that's good, excellent. So we're going to be talking about this screen and this screen. It's called heart rate variability. What the heart rate variability does is, here the computer measures the duration of time between each heartbeat. So just scroll up here just a little bit so we can see right here. Yes, the computer checks how many milliseconds was between your last two heartbeats, and by measuring that and making a graph, it's called the interbeat interval, or the heart rate, or the velocity, or the accelerometer. Well, let's call it the tachometer of the heart. So now let's zoom in down below here just to these two again. So we measured the duration of time, perfect. We measure the duration of time between two heartbeats, and we make a graph of that here. Remember, we could be doing this for two people at once. We're doing it for one person for starts, for simplicity. So now we want to prove that this is working. So right here, we're making this graph of the number of milliseconds between her heart beats. So to prove that's working, we'd like to ask Katarina to take a deep breath. Profunde inspire. That's right. She takes a deep breath, yeah? That was wonderful, Katarina. And now just relax. You see how when she breathed in, the time between heartbeats was faster. Her heart rate speeded up. So the amount of time between heartbeats was less. So this graph went down. And then she breathed out again, then she breathed in and out. And now she's relaxing again now, which is great. But we just proved that this was working because we literally made a graph of her breathing. Now, this tachometer of the heart rate is then spectrum analyzed to measure what's called heart rate variability, which is graphed up here. And the heart rate variability graph is graphing the number of milliseconds averaged in the power spectrum of her heart tachometer. So another way of putting that is when we look at this graph here, see this peak here at 0.1 hertz? Now, when she took her deep breath, we got this peak up here, yes? But when she relaxed and she's not breathing deeply now, then the chief frequency of her heart goes down to 0.5 hertz. This tells me that, actually, it tells me that right now she's holding her breath. She's not breathing. And so we have no heart rate variability, which is perfect. Thank you for showing us what it looks like to not breathe. Okay, this is called lack of heart rate variability. This is very, very cool, Catherine. Thank you. See, now she started breathing again. You see this breathing? Good. And when she started breathing again, then she got a breath at 0.1 hertz. Now, if Katharina were to try breathing into a caduceus, you know what a caduceus is, Katharina? Let's do it. This is called fun with heart rate variability for a moment. The fun is that if you breathe, respiria entre a caduceus, is if you breathe where the first breath is really big, and the next breath is a little bit smaller, and the next breath is a little bit smaller, and then at the end you come to a still point, and we look for a coherence peak. Yeah? So just try breathing into caduceus. Why don't you zoom? Well, first show her breathing. Take a deep breath, yeah? Very deep breath. Good. That's good. Now show the screen again. So she just took a deep breath. And le prochain inspire un petit peu de le smaller. My French is not so good. Good. And then breathe a smaller breath. We want to see if she can make a caduceus with this graph here. I'm going to zoom this graph out a little bit so we blow up just this part of the graph here. So what Katrina has done is she's breathed into this shape, yeah? So this shows the last few breaths that Katrina has made. And what we notice here is that the heart rate variability has a huge peak that's off the graph at around 0.1 hertz. So we know that this breath here was 10 seconds apart, because this 0.1 hertz peak in the heart rate variability. But what's really cool is, look, we got a caduceus here in the heart rate variability for just a moment. I don't know if you caught that, but for just a moment we had a beautiful caduceus. Because now, you see at the end, see how that's like a caduceus there? At the end of that caduceus, we got a beautiful peak here. This is the point. That's wonderful. That is so cool. Okay, so just to review what's happened. Katrina took this caduceus breath, where she took a bunch of big breaths, and then she went to a still point. And as she did that, here, do you see what happened at the end of her caduceus breathing? That's so beautiful. That's the coherence peak, yeah? So, that's precisely what we wanted to show. You could zoom out then. We wanted to show that when you breathe into a caduceus, the real meaning of harmonic inclusiveness in breathing is that your breath is not at just one frequency. That's what Heart Math Institute calls coherence. And really, a breathing at one frequency makes heart rate variability at one frequency, which is not variability at all, and not real coherence. Whereas instead what we did here was we measured real coherence, and it worked. It was fabulous. Thank you, Katrina. You're great. So what worked was, when she breathed into a caduceus, this was breathing into different frequencies, longer wave, shorter wave, shorter wave. And at the end of that harmonic inclusive breath, where she breathed at different frequencies, moving in a caduceus, harmonic inclusive, to still point, at the still point, we got real internal phase coherence in the heart. That's what we showed in that cepstrum coherence peak. So that was a big success. That's great. Thank you. That's perfect. So that's a demonstration of heart rate variability. Now, I want to show you just a few more features in the control panel. These are some of the advanced features we wanted to tell you about that were not in the previous version. So let's zoom in again to the control panel here. I just want to show you in the advanced settings. I just clicked on advanced settings, and that's the zoom over here. In the advanced settings, under general settings, you can select what musical instrument to play with the Bliss tuner when it's playing the sound of the heart. We recommend using the Microsoft MIDI mapper, and recommend scrolling down and using the pan flute here because it's such a gentle frequency. Yeah? The channel delay is something you don't need to worry about too much, and the lock you don't have to lock recent screen settings, so it's going to reload previous screen settings at start, where all the windows are arranged. So now we're going to change from general settings to input settings in the advanced settings. Input settings is just where you set what hardware device you use. Some people, very few, still have the old preamplifier, so they would use the top. But most people have the new preamplifier, and they use the bottom setting, and the default is correct, the 2-wire settings with high gain. Most people are using the 2-wire, and that has only to do with the brainwave settings, EEG. So for most people, it's simply set here. You're using the new hardware and using 2-wire EEG electrodes. This is now the cepstrum and spectrum settings here, and this allows me in the spectrum to control the duration of the averaging. The default is set to 4. Here's the waterfall plot. I set for having 12 harmonics in the waterfall. I can set that down to 5 or 6, which is the default. And this is where it constrains A and B waterfall settings. That just means that when you adjust the gain for A and B, they're hooked together. And of course we do want to show the scale. And most people do not want to constrain the A and B vertical scales, so you can adjust the amplitude gain of the spectrum separately for channel A and channel B. The cepstrum settings are the coherence settings. This is the viewing range, 2 Hz. You should leave this as a default unless you know what you're doing. Waterfall plot, notice 5 plots there. And this is constrain A and B. It means hook A and B gain settings together. Show the scale. You want the scale setting shine. Show index markers, which means show the scaling values. And I'm going to put show times phi markers. This has to do with EEG. I recommend setting that on. And constrain A and B vertical scales. I like to be able to adjust my amplitude gain settings separately in cepstrum, so I'm going to turn that off. And here in brainwaves, I'm going to leave show golden ratio from phi to the 1 to the phi to the 4th alpha peaks. So you can turn on and off seeing golden ratio in brainwaves. In heart rate variability history, this is where we make our choices for HRV display. And if you don't know what you're doing, we recommend just leaving those settings at default. They give you the option of how you scale, and we recommend leaving auto scaling on. You can play with these after you get used to using heart rate variability. Basically, it has to do with the HRV vertical scale being automatically adjusted. And this is Export Manager. This is just, you can see the various ways in which you can export data. Notice here that you can also click on Auto Record. Right now the Auto Record function is set off because you don't always want to auto record. And also you can export bitmapped or actual data when you click the little camera to export data. But I think that's what I want to show you now, the data record functions. So we've gone through all the settings very briefly in the advanced settings. And there's more in the manual and from Frank on that, but just so you have an idea. You can start without even adjusting anything there because the defaults are usable. But just so you know, you have those advanced setting options. But now, let's look here in the control panel at some of the things we can do here. First of all, the basic thing you can do is click record. So I'm clicking on record, and the little red light's on, and it's functioning like a little tape recorder. So then later, I can click the Save the Data Set. Under File here, I would click Save Recording, and then I would give that recording a name, and then I can open and play back and analyze later. Yeah? Notice that this is showing the number of seconds since I clicked Record. Now the other thing I can do here is click Event Marking. So if I click here on Event Marker, see that Add Event Marker, I click there, and what happens here is this little red flag, beautiful, I'll do that again, I'm going to open this window up a little bit more. I want you to see the little red flag. So this will be Event Marker number 2. See that red flag? So that red flag is going to show up, and I can then label that event. So the label event here, I'll just put test in here, T-E-S-T, okay? So I labeled that event marker. So later when I play back the data, the event markers will show up. Okay? And these buttons down here, now they just control which window is open and closed. It's very simple. First I'm going to click Stop Taking Data. I click Stop. And then I'm going to click Stop here. So when I click Stop down here, that stopped recording data. When I click Stop up here, now the heart tuner green light is blinking and it's doing a shutdown. Yeah. Yeah, the green light just blinked and now the green light went off, and that just told me I stopped taking data. Now I want to show you how I play back that data. So remember, I only recorded data for a few minutes, but I could play back the data by using this pinwheel here. Beautiful. See, that's the data I just recorded. That's nice. So I can scroll back. You see? Now if I wanted to save that data, I would click Save Recording, and it defaults to My Projects window, and it defaults to the format is .hti, and it's New Project 0.r1. So I'm going to just put the name Katarina in here. Is it K-A-T-A-R-I-N-A, Katarina? Yes. Katarina. So I'm just putting her name. So now I've saved her heart. I haven't really saved her heart. I've just saved her heart harmonics. Yeah. Okay. So you see how that works. So I can record and play back. And just finally, so you see how the little windows work. Each window opens and closes. See how this window opens and closes? I'm just showing you how these buttons work. So I usually want my raw data window showing. This is called channel input. Channel input window is where the raw data input window opens and closes. So I can switch how many channels I want to record. I can record 1 heart, 2 hearts, 1 brain, or I can do a brain-heart comparison, or I can do, which shows people if your heart's hooked to your head. I can do 2 people's brain waves, or I can do cross-hemispheric brainwave coherence, which is called the Bliss tuner, which I'll show you later, or I can measure life force. The life force experiments with the gold egg, those are available but still experimental. Okay? So, I was showing you what these buttons do. This was the channel input window. See how the channel input window opens and closes? Close that. This is the spectrum window. That's this window, yeah? Okay, let's just take a pause here, yeah? We'll just take a pause. Good. So just then to finish what we began, we are displaying here that these various buttons on the control panel control which window is opened. So we showed you the channel input window opens and closes, the spectrum window opens and closes, internal coherence is this one, that's the Cepstrum module, and the TACO history, that's that window that had the history of coherence in it, yes? Etc. And we'll show you the gain window a little bit later. The advanced settings window we showed you, yes? So now we're going to do, if you want to zoom out again, now we're going to do the next major important step. And that is we're going to show what it's like to have 2 people on the heart tuner. So Laurent is coming from the camera here, and we're going to connect Laurent here to the second channel, channel B, yes? Good. And then notice that channel A is always the one at the left front of the preamplifier, or channel B, which we're connecting Laurent to. See how we put these two electrodes on the wrist here. Be sure there's a snug fit, and the little pins are facing the skin there. That's right. And then you can relax and have your hands anywhere you want, wherever you're comfortable. But then, that's right, anywhere you're comfortable. But just as long as you try not to move your wrists once we're connected. So channel B will be Laurent, and channel A will be Kai. Yeah? Okay. And now I'm going to click Start Recording here. I click on the input screen. I select 2 hearts here. That's good. And then we're going to zoom in on the screen, and I'll just show you the settings just a little bit. That's it. We're just going to zoom in just a little bit here. Now we're doing 2 channels on this display. We're waiting for the noise to settle a little bit while we get the camera adjusted. Just a little bit more. There, now we've got some clean data going. Notice on the top we've got clean data on the EKG. I'm just going to dance in here a little bit. So this is telling us that I've got 2 channels of relatively clean electrocardiogram data. On the top, channel A, red, Katrina. On the bottom, channel B, blue, is Laurent. Okay? So I make that window smaller, and now I check my harmonics, the spectrum window. Yeah? I'm going to make that window a little bit smaller here. So see how in the spectrum window I want a little more gain. So here I crank up the gain a little bit there. And notice that since I set that, my amplitude or gain controls are separate for channel A, channel B. Whereas the number of frequencies I display is the same for both. Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to make that a little smaller now. Notice how you can check in your harmonics window. Notice that for Katerina right now, the frequency around 5 Hertz is a little bit lower than the rest, and that was true before. We found people with a low peak at 6.25 Hertz here often have too much electrosmog. there it is. We just mentioned it and she did it. It was great. But with the peak low at 6.25 Hertz, it's a perfect multiple of 50 cycle. 6.25, 12 and a half, 50, 25, 50. So people who have too much 50 cycle electrosmog, often that peak is very low and stays low, which it's not in her case. In his case, it is also a little bit low, indicating how much electrosmog trauma there is in the body. But that's the generalized principle there is harmonic inclusiveness predicts vitality. So we want the more harmonics, the better in this display. And we can actually see how many frequencies, how high the frequencies are in the power spectrum of the EKG. The music in your heart. Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to make that screen smaller now, and we have a more elegant way of measuring when those frequencies are inclusive or coherent. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more now on the coherence screen. There, we're just going to zoom in there because we want to talk about coherence. This is the screen we want to play with now. So here they are over there smiling. Let's see if they're smiling. Let's check to see if they're smiling here. Whoops, whoops, whoops. They smile. Oh, they're smiling. Oh, there was definitely a smile for her. Okay, let's see now if that smile showed up in the coherence history here. That's the idea, is to see if we actually got coherence when she smiled. Okay, remember, so she's channel A, yeah? So the history of coherence here for her is up here. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so you can see it better. And I'm going to make this screen bigger. That's good. And now I want to increase the amount of gain right there on his coherence. Yeah. Now what I'd like to do, I want to see if I can separate the Cepstrum gain control. So in the advanced settings, the Cepstrum HRV history, I want to deconstrain, constrain ICC scales. This is what I wanted. So I turned that off. The reason I wanted to do that is I want to adjust. That's it. See, I can adjust his gain up and her gain down a little bit separately. Good, good. You see how I did that? Okay. So, because, remember, just to review, this, let me just go in here. This is the history of coherence for her heart. This was her smile. See, when she smiled over there, that's when we were talking about her smile, when we were teasing her about her smile. Those were the two smile peaks, yeah? And this is his coherence. His coherence is actually a little lower on average than hers. You see where her peaks go up to 60%. I'm going to make that even bigger. Now, we want to talk about that coherence history display. I'll zoom in just a little bit more here. And we're going to look right in at that coherence history display here. Whoops, there we go. See if that'll stay there. That's good. Okay. So, notice what I wanted to show is the absolute versus relative. Well, in this case, it's absolute display of coherence, where, see this number here, that number there at 60%, right there. See that 60 right there by the arrow? That means that the real percentage of coherence in her heart is hitting 60% there. Right here, see this little arrow? Yes, that's good. Whereas in his heart, you see the real percentage of coherence is a little bit lower at 40%. So I am adjusting the gain separately here. His peak is 40 to 50%. And you can see that down here. See where her coherence peak is staying higher than his coherence peak a little bit. This means that she's actually able to stay in one place. And notice now, let's see, we want to look here in this peak now. We want to see this too. Zoom out just a little bit so we can see them both. There we go. Oops, oops, oops. I'm sorry about that. I get a little better at that controller there. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're now discussing the coherence history, and we're getting to the point of what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the ability to measure empathy here. That's the point. Okay, so they're over there smiling, and what we want to do is we want to see whether they can link these two peaks. And there they are. Look at that. So Katrina and Laurent are a couple, and often they're able to link their two heart coherence peaks. That's nice. Okay. So now let's just ask them. So what we're looking for here is two things. We're looking for their ability to raise the peak, to make the peak go up there, to raise that peak. That's step one. That's increase in coherence. And the second step is the ability to move this peak left-right here. Right. The left-right movement tied to heart rate. And when the two peaks line up vertically, that's it. Oh, almost had it. They have the condition of phase lock or resonance entrainment between two bodies, which is the measurement of empathy. So what we're going to try is just a little experiment now. If we zoom out here just a little bit, we want to see if they were actually to touch hands. Okay, so why don't you just one hand and hold hands there? Yeah, that's it. See, they're going to hold hands there. That's good. Just relax and try to feel each other. That's it. She smiled at him there. That was very nice. Okay, let's see what's going on over here. They're holding hands now. She's relaxed. Let's see if her smile was real. That's it, his smile. Now, the way I read this is coherence went down. This was called no pressure. No pressure. And so now they're relaxing. Just see if they can feel each other's heart. Yeah? So her coherence now is going back up. And notice that this peak is getting closer and closer there. You see? Ah, that's it. He had it for a minute. But notice, so what she has is the ability to hold the feeling. Whereas his ability, he's moving back and forth more. So he has ability to change emotion, but hasn't demonstrated ability to stay in one place very much. Whereas her, she's very stable. Notice here that her heart coherence peak, there, now they're together. You see that they follow each other? Beautiful. See, so they're able to hold the empathy, but you can see who's going to whom. See how they lined up there for just a moment? There they go. Beautiful. So they actually got it. Yes? So this is the work of the marriage counselor. At the moment when the two peaks are vertically lined up, you have the physics of empathy, that phase lock between. Yes? So now you can release hands again. You can just take your hands apart a little bit there, guys. There you go. Relax and be still. Yeah. So what we've learned is that the ability to measure empathy is the ability to link two hearts. And two hearts are linked at the moment when those two peaks line up. It's simple physics. It's actually been proven in brain waves for healers. When two bodies become electrically in phase, then they can exchange energy. That's charge transfer. It's the physics of Tantra, marriage counseling, peacemaking, a corporate consensus process in the boardroom. So when they can line up those two peaks, they have the physics of empathy. That's when charge transfer between bodies, which is actually the ability to exchange healing energy. So doctors in a clinic need to learn how to link these two peaks. Now, the other thing that we've found, now look as they relax there, how beautiful that is. Look at that! And his coherence is coming back. That's nice, see? See, they got a coherence peak together here, how nice that is? Look at that coherence peak together. That's very nice, yeah? So now, as they're relaxing here, the marriage counselor says, oh, yeah, this is working. Yeah, okay. So the other thing we wanted to point out, just before we leave these screens now, that's so beautiful, guys. Look at that. Oh, he's in a much better state. We had him all worried before. Now he's doing better. He's staying there more, okay? So the other thing we found is that heart rates appear to be globally scaled. What that means is, I'm going to make this screen a little bit bigger now. This is the Cepstrum coherence screen. And what we found out here, look at how lovely that empathy is there now, and that coherence is so good. We were getting a little bit of noise in your heart rate variability when you moved your wrist there to touch. But her heart rate variability chart is very clear also, yeah? This is the heart rate variability, the tachometer. Let's bring up the HRV charts here just a little bit. We didn't switch those on here yet. So we would have expected what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is that her heart rate actually has not varied a lot. Notice how it's staying near 71, 72 beats per minute. So in fact, we're not getting a lot of heart rate variability for her. Whereas his heart rate variability is off the charts. It's actually too high here. We should adjust the settings. If we turn that auto scaling off there, we'd see that better. So his heart rate variability is very high, whereas her heart rate variability is very low. So he's getting more variability. So his challenge is to focus and stay still. Her challenge is to be more variable. But look at that beautiful empathy measure there. That's very nice. That's what we mean by measuring and teaching people to have empathy. The last thing I was going to mention before I got interrupted was talking about global scaling. That heart rates here, look at how they're perfectly together now, perfectly together, so beautiful. There, they have linked hearts. Can you feel that now, guys? Huh? You feel it? He's nodding his head a little bit. Yeah, okay. So that was very nice. Anyway, what I was going to say about heart rates parking is, heart rates that park here at 1.0 seconds, which is close to the Planck multiple, we'll talk about that later. But heart rates that park here seem to be much more, I'm thinking about it. Whereas heart rates that go down here, which is where he just went, beautiful, the golden mean, or 0.62, are more touchy-feely. And that's a discussion we're having about the scaling of heart rates and whether the duration of the second is sacred. But anyway, what we found is there's 3 parking places for heart rates. Here at 1.0, here at 0.79, and here at about 0.62. These 3 parking places, and notice that she has been parked in the center, and he goes back and forth between 0.79 and 0.62. So our subjective belief, having done many people, is that people who park here near 1.0 are more, I'm thinking about it, in their head, and people who park here at 0.62 are more touchy-feely or touch-permissive in their heart. And the center position, which is where they are right now, is the peaceful balance. So you can even subjectively teach people to move from head-centered here to heart-centered emotion here by learning the global scaling of heart rates. Yeah? That's preliminary and subjective. Notice that the other way, one more thing here, the other way we have of measuring empathy is here. See that now that they've linked hearts, their heart rate variability, HRV peaks, are lined up beautifully. Look at that. 0.1 hertz. See those two peaks? This peak and this peak for her and for him are the same. That means the long wave breathing, the HRV, is a second way to measure empathy. That is so beautiful, guys. That's just great. So, what we've learned is we measure empathy by linking hearts here. We measure empathy a second way when the heart rate variability, the long frequencies of the breathing, links their HRV curve here. Notice on the HRV curve here that I can also go in the advanced settings here, and under HRV I click include VLF. This says include VLF, very low frequency, in the display. And what happens now is this red bar comes on here and shows the energy density in the lowest frequency in the heart. Yeah? So we have two separate ways of measuring empathy here. These peaks line up. Beautiful. That's called phase lock of the EKG, phase lock of the internal coherence. Second way is when these peaks line up, which they are right now. See those peaks lined up? The second one's not lined up so much, but this peak is lined up, yeah? That means their breathing is synchronized. That's beautiful for teaching Tantra, marriage counseling, consensus process, or conflict resolution, okay? That's beautiful. Now, the third way to measure empathy, which we're about to get to, is the measurement of brain waves, which will be the last thing we do here, yeah? But just to summarize here, what we've done is we've shown that the ability to measure heart coherence and empathy and entrainment can be done in a very powerful and yet flexible environment. The neat thing here is that kids can have fun finding out who loves whom at a party within 10 minutes on heart rate variability and heart measurement. Or if you want to do very sophisticated scientific research work, the tool can also do that. Yes? Okay, we're going to take a pause here. So the next thing we need to play with is the biofeedback game environment. This is called the Heart Waves Butterfly game, yes. And they're getting better now at learning how to link their hearts here, yes. So we want to show a little fun game environment. Again, we've seen that when these peaks line up here, you have the physics of empathy. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on that screen now. Just a little zoom here. We're now getting ready to play the little butterfly, put the butterfly into flower game. Yeah, we're getting ready, yeah. So, they've been practicing linking hearts. We talked about the fact that the hearts are linked when the peaks are lined up. As they're almost lined up right there. It's very close, guys. You're doing good. And to give them more fun ways to learn how to do that, remember the empathy is when these peaks are lined up and when the breath peaks, or when the HRV peaks are lined up, which they are almost here. This peak is very close, which is good. So now we want to make this playful, like we were doing this with kids. So we select the Coherence Game button. In the control panel here, we go to Coherence Game, we click, and notice that we have a choice of 5 different game environments, yeah? And we're going to start with the game number 1, which is the butterfly game, yeah? Now when I click the 1, I'm going to hold the shift key so that the screen display stays on while the game comes on. Yeah? Good. And then I move this game screen over here. See if we're on the screen. Yeah, we're just about on the screen. We're doing okay. Okay. So now I'm going to move the flower over because I want the flower to be about at golden mean 0.62. Yeah? Good. Now we've got the 2 butterflies in the game here. But I think we want the coherence history plot visible on screen too. So I'm going to move this over just a little bit so we can see everything all at once and have lots of fun here. Okay, here we go. So now we've got two butterflies. Where's the other black? Oh, there's the blue butterfly. There it is. Okay. So the red butterfly is channel A. Red butterfly is Katrina. That's the lady. Notice that her heart coherence is a little higher. That's right, you can see it. Oh, no, oh, he's in the flower. There he goes. That was, now, if you didn't see it, we should have caught that with the camera, guys. But that was because he just had a big smile on his face. Oh, that was, see that smile? That was the smile. That's the smile that put his butterfly in the flower, guys. Just so you see the relevant smile of the moment. There, yeah, there they go. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit here now. Out. There we go. Okay. So this is called fun with butterflies. Okay. This is what kids at a party can have fun doing. So the first step is to raise the butterfly. Notice that what the butterfly is doing is the butterfly is tracking the amount of coherence. So the amplitude, oh look at, they're so perfect, they were lined up. Very nice, and they're touching butterflies. This is called romance. Okay. So step one is to raise the butterfly, which is accomplished by raising the internal phase coherence, raising this peak. Step two is the ability to move the butterfly right and left. We think over here by 0.62 is more touchy-feely, and over here by 1.0 it's more I'm thinking about it, head-centered versus heart-centered. Subjectively, many people believe. Yeah. Step three is to touch the butterflies, which they're doing right now so beautifully. It's great. They're a couple, and it's wonderful that they can. And notice how his heart coherence got much more stable here. He's very perfect bingo, guys. That's great. You guys are doing this so wonderful. I'm just so happy. It's cool. Okay, so step one, raise the butterfly. Step two, move right, left. Step three, touch the butterfly. And then step four is to put the butterfly in the flower, which we put it at 0.62, yeah? So you can see how the game would work, is that you have the opportunity to learn in a playful environment heart coherence and emotion coherence, yeah? Now there's some other game environments here, but this is the one that's actually most fun, and well, do we have any questions?
Yes, yes. When you said he touched the butterfly, what it means I did not understand.
When the two butterflies actually touch each other, then their hearts are musically entrained. It means that these two peaks are vertically lined up, and that means that their hearts have literally phase locked, which means that energy can move electrically between their bodies like two capacitors. And that's actually the wave mechanics of the charge transfer that we would call tantra, marriage counseling, conflict resolution, and it's also how we would teach people in a corporate boardroom to link hearts, etc. So if people were having an argument and you want to make peace among military generals, you show them how to link their hearts. It's fun, right? Okay, we're going to do a little pause here. Pause on that one.
So now they are doing it by deep breathing, I suppose.
Yeah, they're linked beautifully, actually. Okay, pause.
Really beautiful.
Hmm?
Okay.
Dan, that's really beautiful invention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's wonderful.
Great. Okay, so this is the third major section of our conversation about the new Heart Tuner Bliss Tuner for 2007. And we're emphasizing the new features in this instructional film. This is the section where we do the brainwave work, the EEG. Briefly, we did a lot with the heart and the heart rate variability, where we recorded that heart data, and we'll actually put that data we took from Katerina right onto the DVD so that you can open and actually play that little sample data. And in a moment when we do the brainwaves for Laurent here, maybe we show his smile or just say, Laurent is here, and you can do people with long hair, of course, but it's quicker and easier, of course, if people are a little short. And also, Laurent has lots of experience meditating. So as an easy first start, he's volunteered. It's wonderful. Thank you, sir. So in a moment, we're going to record some data from Laurent actually doing his brainwave. And he's just incidentally come from is it Vipassana meditation for 10 days? So they're in a very meditative state of mind. So this is a fun thing about meditation training. It's all cool. Now the third aspect of the heart tuner, which measures life force using a spherical capacitor, is optional and still experimental. So while those options do exist, they're only supported experimentally, and that transducer is not included but available. But again, the life force measure is experimental. So we're moving on now to the use of the heart tuner, Bliss tuner preamplifier, this device right here. We're plugged in this case, through the USB port into an Apple Macintosh, but of course it runs fine on Windows XP and PC. We're emulating that using Parallels, so you can't tell the difference whether it's running on a Mac or PC, which is quite fun. But just a note for Apple Mac users, it does require the newer Apple Macs, which all of them are now, which are the Intel dual core, which is the in this case the MacBook Pro. Okay, but again, it's primarily a PC device, but it is supported on the Mac. Okay, so we're now going to look at brainwave measurements, and particularly some of the new features in the brainwave measurement. So to do brainwaves, we do need a little bit of conductive gel. You can use, it's called EKG Sol. It's basically something like aloe vera, a little powder, and it's just a little bit conductive. And we put that on the 4 little electrodes. Maybe you could zoom in just a little bit here, dear, if you would. So I've got a plus and a minus. See how there's a minus and a plus? There we go. You see a little plus sign on there? Yeah. You don't really need to worry about it because the 2 minus electrodes, which on the one channel is black and on the other channel is green, have the little ear clips on them. Whereas the plus electrodes are white and there's no ear clip, right? So once you get a little bit of that wonderful little gel on there, then we want to ask Laurent if he put that on his head, just like a sweatband, just like a sports band. And you know, they are included with the heart tuner, but you can also get them at any sporting goods store, the little sweatbands. Now, let's see if you could focus on me doing this. This is good here. Oops, I just want to clean this a little bit. Okay, so we're going to start with the 0102 or the brainwave positions, which are directly back from the eyeball, which is because it's where the optical cortex is located, which is a great place to start because you can get alpha biofeedback there. So first, I'm putting the little ear clips on the ears, and I'm being aware of which channel is which, okay? So I have 2 clips per channel, so I'm doing a full differential preamplification, which is standard for brainwaves, but I can do it with just 4 electrodes. So now I'm being sure I get through the hair here. And if you had long hair, you can do it. You just have to take a minute. You actually pull apart the hair a little bit so you can actually see the skin. And then when you can see the skin a little bit, then you slide the little electrode in there, yeah? I press in a little bit, and then I pull the headband up. Notice where I'm looking for now is as if it's straight back from his eyes, on the back of the head, which is a good position to start, as we said, because you get the alpha there so good when you close your eyes. And all of our discoveries about bliss, ecstasy, enlightenment, and the end to addiction, attention deficit, always start with the ratio in your brain waves that start with the alpha. The alpha frequencies are the 8 to 13 hertz, typically around 10 hertz, which we'll see color-coded in green. Okay, so now we have them connected. Notice that, let's just check which channel is which. Remember, channel B is always by the green light, by the light here on the heart tuner. That's good. So channel A is going to his, that would be his left. That's correct. And channel B is the right. Let's just see how that's labeled here and see if we want to change that. You want to be aware of what's the right-left hemisphere because you can actually see which hemisphere is right and which is left. Now, because I'm connected to the, and maybe you want to zoom in just a little bit now. I'm going to start showing the screen. So I've launched the Heart Tuner Bliss Tuner software. That's the only thing I've done so far. And if you're running on the Mac, you need to be sure that you have turned on the C2++ on the USB devices selector in Parallels. But if you're running in XP or Windows, you don't even have to check that. You're all set. So now we're going to find out if we've got some signal there. I'm going to the square screen labeled Channel Input, and under Select, I'm scrolling down, and instead of heart, brain, or two brains, I'm going to select two-channel cross-hemispheric EEG here, which is the Bliss tuner right here, this one. And I turn that on, and I notice the green light just came on, which is a good sign. So now I'm going to find out if I'm getting any kind of clean data here. And it's quite normal here. This is the raw input EEG data. It's quite normal that that would be a bit noisy to start with. And we want to see if that settles down and gets a bit clean and coherent. And for that function, I'm going to just actually unplug the computer transformer and run on batteries for just a moment, because sometimes that makes your data a little bit more clean. Although you can do it on a desktop too. You don't have to do it on a portable. But if you do have the option of running on batteries, it is a little nicer. Okay, I can already see I'm getting a little bit of alpha there, so I'm suspecting that my data is pretty good. So now I'm going to show you a little bit about what the screen options do here. I have, this is the raw EEG data, as I said. This is the main screen we're going to be using today, which is the Bliss tuner screen. It's a cross-hemispheric brainwave coherence display where the frequencies contained in this brainwaves, right hemisphere, left hemisphere. Let's see, just to be clear, this is channel B, blue. This is channel B by the light, and that we'd like that to be his right hemisphere. So this is going to your right, correct? That's right, that's going to your right. So this is your right hemisphere, which is good. So right hemisphere's here, left hemisphere's there, very good. Always, the newest data is near the center, and then it scrolls back to older data as we scroll out. That's right, you can zoom in just a little bit more maybe, that's fine. So the color coding here, we have delta, theta, alpha, beta. So these are the lower frequencies down here in red and yellow, which we won't be talking that much about initially. Our main interest initially is the alpha to beta ratio, which is the green to the purple. Notice the alpha frequencies here. Maybe zoom in just a little bit more. Let's kind of see if we can just see this window. Yeah, that's good. That's great. Okay. Yeah. So we're actually wishing to discuss here the amount of energy density in the green area, and you can actually almost see the numbers. This is 7, 8, 9 to 13. That the literature defines alpha energy from your brainwaves as that which comes out between 7 and 13 hertz. Notice that if you zoom out just a little bit there, I want you to see the controls down here. I want to see down here just a little bit. That's good. Or I could just, yeah, that's great. Okay. So I'm going to move this adjustment control right here. I want to show you what these controls do. This one controls whether or not I display high frequencies, okay? So now I've actually set this here. I can see frequencies way up in the, am I all the way up? So I can see frequencies as high as 40 cycles per second, which is called the Tibetan gamma frequencies, yeah? Whereas these frequencies here, this is our gain control. This one, these controls here, this controls how far apart is the spread from the display lines horizontally. The bottom control here controls the amplitude of the gain. That's it. Look at that. See, and the purple bars, you see what the purple bars are doing here? They're actually telling us whether or not the ratio between the frequencies was golden mean. And in fact, it is almost. It's actually rather beautiful there, okay? Very good. Okay, so now the other thing we want to see over here is the history of coherence. I'm going to bring this up here just a little bit. Good. And I want to increase the gain here. So this is my history of coherence. There we go. So for example, just now, Laurent closed his eyes and see how that coherence peak went up there. Isn't that nice? And also we can compare the amount of coherence of the right hemisphere versus the left hemisphere. That's the coherence history. Now I'm going to click record on here. I'm clicking record here so that we can actually give you this data on the DVD so you can open it and play it for yourself. Okay, so we're now recording. So notice that Laurent has closed his eyes. And notice the alpha to the beta ratio. It's beautiful. Okay. Let's just, can I adjust these frequencies here? No. Okay. So this is the alpha to beta ratio here. I've scrolled this down so that you can see higher frequencies here. So we'll just let Laurent meditate for a moment. You know, what we're trying to observe for here is we're observing for whether or not the alpha peak in green first is cross-hemispherically coherent, and then we're going to observe to see if the beta peak is that golden mean ratio up in the purple. Yeah? See how when he meditates, the two green bars line up. And that means the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere alpha have come into phase lock. That's called cross-hemispheric coherence. As opposed to over here, where we're measuring internal phase coherence or internal brainwave coherence. So the first step is when Laurent finds that his alpha frequencies are coherent with respect to themselves. Then the computer wants to show him how to make his beta to golden mean times his alpha. And for that, we're going to use another setting after just a short pause.
On reprend.
Okay, you can see now that Laurent is making some beautiful alpha here just a moment ago, which was great. Before I started talking, it was really cool. So we're setting up now to give Laurent more feedback cues to learn alpha to beta ratio in his brains of golden mean. So we're going to switch on a little bit of feedback. Notice that I'm getting the sound of a piano here, and what I'd really like is the sound of a pan flute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to oh, I got to pause this one moment here. One moment, sorry about that. So what I just did was I went into this control panel here in advanced settings, and I told it to use the pan flute here. Maybe you could zoom in just a little bit there. I just was telling it what instrument to use. I didn't like the sound of the piano. So I told it I wanted a pan flute. You see it says pan flute right there? So I just told it what instrument I wanted, yes? And then I went up here and I said, give me the sound of when I have 5 harmonics for alpha and beta. That's right. And then this was the turn on and turn off command. So now I'm going to hit record again. We're recording the data. And look at how beautiful Laurent is making cross-hemispheric alpha. And what we'd like to learn now is how to make the beta into golden mean ratio times the alpha. So, first the computer says, what's the frequency of the alpha? And that's a green ball and a green stick, right hemisphere, left hemisphere. And then the computer says, below that is the lower frequency, also at golden mean ratio, to see if there's a peak here in the theta and delta. And then up here in the beta is purple ball and purple stick, frequencies above 1300s. The purple ball is the actual measured beta frequency. And the purple stick is 1.618 times the alpha. And look, he's got the purple ball on the stick just for a moment there, okay? Good. So now I'm going to be quiet, and I'm just going to let him meditate a bit. Turn up the gain a little bit. You can see it better. And just let's see a few higher frequencies, a little bit higher. So we can see if he gets the second octave times golden ratio also there. Yeah? So we're there. The purple ball was on the stick. Do you see that? That's nice. And when you hear that higher frequency, you're actually hearing the brainwave frequencies real time. Maybe zoom in just a little bit more there if you would here. A little bit, yeah, bigger on the screen there so you can see it. That's good. Okay, that's great. So again, the green is the alpha, the purple's the beta. Once the green is cross-hemispheric coherent here, then the idea is to make the purple golden mean ratio times the alpha. So the alpha here, for example, is at about 9 hertz, cross-hemispheric. There. And here's the beta, very close to golden ratio. Now, let's look at the history of coherence here. Laurent just closed his eyes, turning up the gain here. So this is telling us when his internal coherence. Now, this present version of the harp tuner here shows us this coherence when the coherence is linear or octave based. But the next version of this software will also show you whether the internal coherence is golden ratio based. Yes? So we'll be able to see both kinds of internal coherence, linear and nonlinear cascades. For now here, what we want to train for is first to make the alpha cross hemispheric just like that. Beautiful, Laura, beautiful. And then we want to see if we can make the beta peaks golden ratio, which would be to put the purple ball on the purple stick. There, just like that. We were quiet for a moment and we had a surge of alpha, which was very nice. Yeah? But notice how cross-hemispheric that is. And you see, when this peak up here is octave versus, you can actually change in the advanced settings to switch to octave biofeedback in the Sepstrum. Let's see. Constrain A and B. Show V times 5. So we want to be able to see whether this ratio of the alpha to the beta here is either octave or golden mean. Octave would mean right now he's at 8.5, a 17 hertz peak. See? So that's a little bit of octave, yeah? Now when he switches that to golden mean ratio, which is when the peak moves down here, it's a very different state of consciousness. Yeah. So we want to thank you very much, Lauren, for that. Maybe you can show him meditating now, just so they see. Yeah, there's Lauren meditating. Yeah. Oh, a big alpha rush on that. Okay. So thank you. Now maybe we'll try Katrina. Thank you. I'm going to just hit pause here.
Katrina.
Pause. Okay, so now we've connected the lovely Katerina here, who has kindly volunteered to help us. She also just came back from the meditative retreat. And we should mention that the actual frequencies we're playing here now are the actual frequencies of the brainwaves, okay? So the computer is actually taking the measured alpha and beta frequencies and bringing them up the frequency scale and making your brain music audible in almost real time. Okay, so this is, again, the history of coherence here. This is the right-left hemisphere Sepstrum coherence here. And this history is the best way to see that, yes? This is the raw brainwaves here, and this is the alpha, and this is the beta, and the audio feedback cues are on. So we're going to click record here, Katerina. Okay. It says continue as multi-session. No, I want a new session. And this is record, yes. Okay, so now we're recording. Now, Katerina, if you want to just close your eyes for a moment, right, while you zoom on the screen, that's good. See how beautiful that was just when she closed her eyes. We got this beautiful coherence peak there. And the alpha is cross-hemispheric. It's beautiful. Notice that that's an octave there, yes? Okay. Notice also that her left hemisphere is a little stronger than her right hemisphere, but it's cross-hemispherically very coherent. So she is obviously a meditator. Look at how beautiful that is, yeah? Okay. But notice that she dances a little bit. See this, the measured beta peak here goes from octave to golden ratio. So she's learning to change her beta from octave to golden ratio. And when she gets into golden ratio, she gets a little reward here, yeah? That's an example of beautifully cross-hemispheric alpha and occasional alpha to beta golden ratio. There, like there. Thank you, dear. That was great. Show her face as she meditates there. That was so nice. That was actually a beautiful demonstration. We should just thank her, yeah? Okay. So just to share an example, now we're gonna save that data. That was a beautiful meditation. Thank you very much. And that will then be included with this DVD so other people can play it back. So I'm going to click stop here, stop the record. I just turn off the sound. And then notice that the device is telling me it's doing a shutdown. And I'm just hitting save under file so that I can give you this data at home and you can play it. And we're going to call this Katarina EEG 1, yeah? So when you get this DVD, you can open it and play it in the free Heart Tuner demo software and try that for yourself. So, what have we seen in summary? We've seen a device which, like many brainwave systems, can beautifully show cross-hemispheric alpha. But this is the only system that's able to actually measure the internal coherence here of that overall internal phase coherence of the brainwaves. Unlike other systems which can only measure coherence where they compare the right to the left, here we can measure the coherence within the hemisphere. Also, this is the only system that can give you the valuable feedback cues to learn that important information of when your alpha to beta is golden ratio. We now know the reason for that is that, I'm just going to grab this little model over here, that what's happening in your brain waves during the phenomena of bliss, ecstasy, and peak experience, just to review, your brain waves are looking to make that golden ratio because your brain wants to make an electric field that's fractal, looks like a flower. And a fractal flower in 3D looks like this. All the blue sticks are golden ratio, dodecaecosa, dodecaecosa. So your whole body kind of flips a switch. You get fractal, the electric field of your body becomes to look more like a rose, and what happens is you suck in electric charge. And that ability to compress that charge, we call it phase conjugation, is literally the physics of perception. This was measured in the original Russian work by Dr. Korotkov, and now the tool to optimize and teach this internal coherence plus golden ratio versus octave feedback training is available to you in a very elegant system. So, we thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions about the Heart Tuner Bliss Tuner, I'm Dan Winter at goldenmean.info. You can reach us on the web anytime, goldenmean.info. Also Frank at heartcoherence.com. We're pleased to work with you, and we want to thank all the people who helped us make this film today. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. And we hit record.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
I want one.
Pause. Oh, and one more thing. Our magic lady Katarina here made an excellent suggestion. She said she wanted to be connected to her heart and her brain at the same time. So we've connected, as you can see, her wrists, her heart to channel A, and her brainwave, one channel, to channel B. Now note when we do that, we use the black and white brainwave here, and there's no ear clip connection required because we get the ground from the wrist straps, okay? So I've got one full set on her wrists on channel A, and then the black and white one on the back of her head for channel B brainwaves, yes? So, and then if you want to zoom in on the screen here, Laurent, please. So the setting I'm using here is I go into the data input settings here, and I select the icon that says heart brain, okay? One heart and one brain. And then notice I've got raw EKG here on A and EEG here on B. And then I do some gain adjusts here. So here I'm seeing the frequencies in her heart on channel A and the frequencies in her brain on channel B. And notice when I crank that up, there's a couple things I'm looking for here. What I'm looking for is to see if the frequencies in her brain waves will line up with the frequencies in her heart. Again, here the green is alpha and the purple is beta. Let's bring this down just a little bit here. if I rescale this, those colors will rejoin me. There we go. There, I want to put this just, I want about up to there. Let's just get these colors. Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, so now I'm looking to see if her alpha frequency is in fact aligned with the frequencies of her heart. And this is what Bentoff showed in his Stalking the Wild Pendulum, Biomechanics of Kundalini, that the brainwave frequencies are actually phase locked with the heart frequencies. And the other thing I want to look over here in the coherence history, here I'm adjusting in the coherence history, yeah? But I need these gain adjusts to be separate here. So in the Cepstrum, the history display, channel recorder, advanced settings, in the history display, where it says spectral density, see it constrain ICC scales, I unclick that. So that I did that because I want to adjust this gain high, right, in your brainwave coherence. Well, this gain is low. There we go. We're adjusting now. Excellent. So this is her heart coherence history up here, and that's her brainwave coherence there. Now, there's two ways we're measuring whether or not her heart is hooked to her head. Here we've got her heart rate variability display. Good, good. Heart rate variability display. Let's adjust this a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to see. That's good. Look at how beautiful her alpha is. Her alpha is off scale here. She's meditating. Better turn that down just a little bit. This is the alpha to beta ratio. That's good. So she closed her eyes and started meditating. Okay, and this was the increase in coherence of her heart, of her brainwave, which was a little bit. But look at the increase in coherence of her heart. Okay, so there's two ways in which we measure heart-brain phase lock. We measure whether or not this alpha peak is lined up with the peak in the. See, I'm going to make that straight. Instead of staggering, I'm making it straight so I can see exactly whether this peak lines up with that peak. Notice this beautiful heart coherence here. This is the heart coherence. That's very good. And this is the coherence of the brainwaves, yeah? So I'm making all this noise and distracting her. We're getting beautiful response in the heart coherence. And let's just crank up the gain a little bit more in the brainwave coherence. There. So these brainwave coherence peaks here tell us whether the brain coherence came at the same moment as the heart coherence. And these peaks here tell us if the heart frequencies, and look at that beautiful peak right there, that's the alpha peak lining up with the brainwaves. So this is the heart harmonic in phase with the brainwave harmonic. That's beautiful. Thank you, dear. And this was her alpha to beta in almost golden ratio. And this is her beautiful alpha. So that's heart-brain coherence compared. And that's really all working very beautifully. So thank you again. Thank you, dears. Yeah?